Beach closed. Glad we finally made it to a location. Wasn't the original plan, but you know what? Sometimes you just got to roll with the punches. Landscape photography is a super hard thing to predict. Whenever I get to a location, the first thing I would like to do is, of course, figure out exactly the angle of the sun. There's many apps that you can use for this. The Photographer's Empress, which I own that app, but I don't utilize it a lot just because it's almost an overkill for the information that I need. I just really need to know, where's the sun setting? What time is it setting? I use an app, I think it's called Sunpath or Sunlight or Light Track. That's what it's called. I had in my mind we were going to be shooting waterscapes or an ocean scene the entire time. So to switch gears to shooting this now is it's quite a change. One of the real challenges with shooting during golden hour is hold on, let me fix you here. You are way too low. That should be a little bit better. One of the challenges is the dynamic range in a sunset or a sunrise. And what that is basically the darkest areas of a scene and the lightest areas of a scene. And it really puts a strain on a camera. Although cameras nowadays, the dynamic range is really off the charts. So it's amazing what they can do, but you got to really pay attention to that kind of stuff. Whoops. To get the image properly exposed, I use filters. I use the Denney filter system, and I'm gonna put, this is a 67 millimeter lens that I'm using. It's a Zeiss 25 millimeter bodice. It's a prime lens, so there's no zoom on this. So I'm gonna put this ring on here, and this will enable me to be able to hook, one, a circular polarizer, and two, I'm gonna use a 3-stop soft graduated filter. So first things first, polarizer. Probably one of the most important filters in a landscape photography's kit. This right here will not only add vibrancy to all colors, it makes the sky bluer, deeper blue. It can take the shine or reflection out of water. Not even necessarily water, but like water on leaves, dew. It does everything. It works wonders. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this on. Just screws on here. And since it's a circular polarizer, you actually have the benefit of being able to determine how much polarization you want to actually apply to it. And you do that by simply spinning the polarizer. There's a little wheel at the top right here, and you spin it. Joby Gorilla Pod landed in mud. Oh yeah, I probably didn't tell you that. I'm literally in a field of mud right now. There's midges or some kind of flying bug everywhere. And this is the bracket. I don't know if you can see it, but there's individual slats where you can actually stack multiple filters within one. So it doesn't have to just be the circular polarizer and one other. I think this actually holds, if you include the circular polarizer, 3 filters, which is probably more than you would ever need for one shot. If you ever needed that many filters for one shot, you should probably just wait till a different time of the day. And here is the 3-stop soft graduated filter. Basically means it's a soft graduation. So it starts at the very top, and that's gonna be 3 stops of light reduction, and then it slowly fades down. I'm gonna slide this into the first slot. And I'm only going to put it in a little bit because I don't want to darken the top of the bridge. Always want to make sure you have your horizon straight. You can always fix that kind of stuff in post, but I always say your best bet is to get everything right in camera. I'd much rather spend time outside than in front of your computer working on images. I know I would. So I always try and get everything right the first time in camera. Now, the first thing you have to figure out when going over your settings, I always shoot in manual mode, is your f-stop. And, you know, this is obviously a very grand scene. So I want everything in focus from the foreground all the way out to the background beyond the bridge. So I'm going to use a small aperture or a high f-stop number, and probably like maybe start off with f11 and might go to f14. So we're going to go to f11, and since the sun or the light is fading quickly here, and using a small aperture, so there's not going to be a lot of light that's able to get in on the sensor, so I'm going to have to use a longer shutter speed. I always try and keep my ISO as low as possible. I usually try and keep it at about 100. Here's a quick tip too. Most advanced cameras have in-body image stabilization, which is fantastic. The thing that a lot of people forget to do is turn off the image stabilization when it's on a tripod, because that can actually soften up your picture. It's very counterintuitive, but you always want to make sure you turn it off. I forget it all the time. I just did. And I always use either a remote shutter release or a 2-second timer. I'm using a 2-second timer right here. If I'm shooting waves or water or anything that I really have to time, that's when I use a 2-second or a remote shutter. It's really pushing the dynamic range of my camera here because the foreground is very dark and the sky is very bright. So more than likely we're going to have to wait a little bit longer for the sun to go down some. Looks good so far. Check for sharpness. Very sharp, very nice. So now we really just wait. This is honestly probably one of my favorite parts of landscape photography, is when you get to your location, everything is set up, all your settings are good, your exposures, your meter readings, your light, everything is right, composition is good, and all you need to do is just wait for that exact moment when everything is perfect. It's nice. The peak of a sunrise and the peak of a sunset only lasts for a minute or two, and it's impossible to time. You honestly don't even know the peak just occurred until it is over. So in a situation like this, I end up taking exposure after exposure after, just to ensure that I do get the peak color. Actually, earlier today, there wasn't a cloud in the sky, which is a landscape photographer's worst nightmare, is no clouds. It seems really counterintuitive because we think of a beautiful day as not a cloud in the sky. But for landscape photography, that's the complete opposite of what you're looking for. You need clouds in the sky in order to reflect the light. And that's how you get the brilliant colors. Without any clouds in the sky, you get a real flat, dull image. There's actually some clouds building in right now. Maybe this is the photography gods throwing me a bone for the beach closure situation earlier. I'm not manually focusing on this today. Whenever you're not using manual focus, I try and put my focus point about 1/3 of the way into the image, and that just kind of ensures that everything in front of you or in the foreground is going to be sharp, and everything in beyond is going to be sharp as well. And that really applies for when you're using a higher f-stop value. Starting to get a little bit chilly out here, but man, is it nice. If we could just get rid of these bugs, all would be great. Now that it's darkened up quite a bit, I'm actually going to take the graduated filter out because there's really no need anymore. The sky is not quite as bright as it once was. Why are you out of focus? Okay. You know, something that I failed to mention earlier is white balance. And one of the reasons I forgot to mention it is because I don't ever do anything with it. I always leave it on auto white balance because you can correct it in post easier than probably changing it in your own camera. So I always leave it on auto, just kind of a set it and forget it kind of thing. Never touch it. The sky really, really cooperated tonight. I didn't think we would get much of anything, but boy, did it really turn out nice. You know, this just goes to show you, when the sun actually sets, that's not the time to leave. Usually the real magic, the real color happens the 30 minutes after the sun goes down. That's when it really happens. So many people, once the sun drops below the horizon, they pack up and head home. That is not the time to do it. Always stick around. I say always stay longer than you probably think you should, just in case. All right, everyone, it's starting to get pretty dark out here. Running low on batteries. I need to go check into the hotel. I'm gonna take off a few more images here, go back, check in, clean up, get some food. All I've eaten today was a peanut butter package of crackers from the Dollar General. So I'm pretty hungry. So we'll do it again tomorrow. Bye.